President Herzog, thank you very much, sir, for making the time for this interview. Now, the latest chapter of violence in the Middle East began with the Hamas attack on Israel 1 year ago. How do you expect it to end across the region?
I think we should find a way, following the terrible year that we've all gone through, as we mark the 7th of October of last year, which was a day of tragedy and pain of unequivocal magnitude for us and for the region. I think that we should now, when things are shaking in the Middle East, should find a common exit strategy that enables a better future for the people of the region. Clearly, as we see, this war has been waged on us by the empire of evil, by Iran and its proxies. We have 101 hostages still in the dungeons of Gaza in immense suffering. And we are fighting in the north and in the south, meaning in Gaza and in Lebanon. We are trying to change the equation and bring a hope for the people of the Middle East. And now is a golden opportunity for the powers that want to have a better future for the Middle East to move forward with new ideas and new plans in order to resolve this conflict and exit from the war. But I'm not sure, as I read our enemies, that they are there still.
Mr. President, based on what you're saying, for Israelis, do you think the first anniversary of October the 7th should be marked as a day of reflection and remembrance, or one of revenge and retaliation?
We are not dealing with revenge and retaliation. We are first dealing with a lot of pain and agony. I can tell you, as the head of state of Israel, I've seen enormous pain and agony that I've never imagined I would see in my life. I see enormous pain and agony of hostage families, of wounded people, of bereaving families, immense amount of bereaving families, of communities that have been displaced, and so forth and so on, all around the country. And the real issue is that we understand that there was a huge opportunity that was laid out originally by President Biden, actually, just before the war, of the connectivity of Israel all the way to India, through the Middle East, through Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and so forth, that would bring hope and a huge message of peace in the region. And this hope was derailed by this vicious, horrific attack of the Iranian proxies by Hamas in the south, Hezbollah in the north, the Houthis from Yemen, and proxies in Iraq and so forth. Now it's a big challenge, but if we change the equation and uproot this empire of evil and move forward to a better future of connectivity and peace in the region, this could be of historic magnitude.
You know, sir, after an attack that was clearly quite brutal, a year that began with Israel receiving almost universal sympathy and support from the international community seems to be ending with it being seen by many now as a global pariah. Now, isn't that a damning verdict on Israel's response to that attack?
We know that we are being attacked as part of the entire war machine against us, attacked in the international legal forums, attacked in public opinion, attacked on campuses and so forth. But we truly believe in our vision. We are a democracy. We are an oasis in the Middle East. We have Jews, Muslims, Christians, Druze and Circassians living and dwelling together. Unfortunately, yesterday, Hezbollah has attacked in missiles a bunch of Muslim towns and cities, our brothers and sisters, we are with them in this war. This is the real reality of the region. The real reality that we're offering the region is a reality of coexistence and living together, making, of course, peace agreements and surfing towards accommodating each other. We are all the children of Abraham, and I call upon the people of Lebanon, the people of Iran, the people of all of the oppressed nations in the region to rise up and understand that if we move this empire of evil, truly an empire of evil, if we confront it and be tough together, we surely can hope for a better future and create a NATO-like structure in the region that blocks radicalism and terror.
Well, sir, last week's missile attack by Iran on Israel caused relatively little damage. Is the retaliation worth provoking a wider war, global recession, further strikes on Israel?
So first of all, I can tell you as somebody who was in the shelter that it is extremely unpleasant, naturally. 181 missiles, big missiles on Israel. It's one can think it's one of the largest attacks in one shot on any country, and clearly deserves an answer. But we are considering our reply, and we are considering the next step of how to prevent and how to deter the Iranian war machine. And since I'm not part of this, it's not under my responsibility, I leave it up to the government and the military. And I think we are calculating all calculations in this respect. But one has to understand Iran is the only country in the world who calls for the eradication of another member state of the United Nations. That's Israel. And they keep on saying it all the time. I saw the speech of the supreme leader. There was no message of accommodation or extending a hand or saying, let's move together, and two great nations, historic nations, to move together and help change the life of people in the Middle East. Rather, you see Iran spending billions of dollars of their own citizens' money on a huge war machine, on other people's infrastructure, which are all aimed to create pain, havoc, rape, burn, take hostages, and chop and destroy. So either we offer hope or we go for destruction. Iran offers destruction, we are offering hope.
Well, Mr. President, as obviously a person in your position, could you confirm whether or not there would be a retaliation against Iran, and how soon?
I cannot go into any detail, of course. I think the words of Prime Minister Netanyahu were pretty clear. But having said that, we are, of course, looking on the grand picture and understanding all of the various calculations and interests, and yet it is clear to us that being attacked in such an aggressive manner and brutal manner needs retaliation and an answer that will deter our enemies.
Considering how you describe it, Mr. President, would Israel, or would you advocate Israel going as far as eliminating Iran's oil facilities, its nuclear sites, even its leaders?
I have no intention of responding to your question.
Okay, so
don't take it personally.
No, I understand. But has the US given you any go-ahead for any attack on Iran, from what you know?
So we have an intense dialogue with the United States, our closest ally and friend. We have an open, frank, and friendly discussion with them on analyzing both the strategic issues as well as the various operational considerations on the ground. Today, the commander of CENTCOM, General Kurilla, is going to visit Israel, and I'm sure it's going to be the main topic of the day.
Mr. President, you've claimed that Israel's attack in Beirut, which killed the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and many of its senior commanders, ended a meeting that was planning an October the 7th style invasion from Lebanon. When will you present any proof of such a claim?
Well, you know, we have been gathering a lot of information and intelligence on Hezbollah and its operations, including Hassan Nasrallah. We know exactly what they were planning to do. And I must say that, we don't expose our sources, but nobody can deny that, because they've had the Radwan forces on our border, and they've launched endless attacks on Israel cross borders since October 8th with no real reason. They violated the international border. They violated Security Council resolutions and numerous UN resolutions. They actually brought Lebanon into a huge risk. They were part of a major axis of evil that tried to surround us from all over, and it was clear that with this exchange of fire going on, that they were planning something strategic.
Although the Lebanese Foreign Minister Abdullah Abu Habib claimed that the former Hezbollah Secretary General had agreed to a temporary 21-day ceasefire before he was eliminated. From what you know, is that true?
I have no idea of that information, and we don't have any proof to that effect. To the contrary, as far as we know, there was no willingness on their part just like there's no willingness on the part of Sinwar in Gaza to move on a hostage deal. There's a lot of fake news going on in the region and the world, and let's put the record straight. On October 7th, a terror attack was launched from Gaza. Thousands of terrorists broke into Israel, burning, chopping, raping, kidnapping innocent civilians. By the way, many of them the biggest supporters of peace in the region. And thereafter, an enormous onslaught from all over, including from Yemen, by the way, which is another example of what a proxy is all about. It's a small tribe armed up to its neck by Iranian money and Iranian resources, and then threatening the entire high seas transportation in the world, raising the cost of living of every person around the globe. So if you look at it objectively, what Iran is doing is not only radicalizing the entire region, it's threatening the entire world, and it's trying to undermine the sovereignty of many nations in the region as well and in the world. Now, like terror and other proxies.
Now, President Herzog, of course, you know, what Hamas and its allies did on October the 7th have been described as war crimes. Can you rule out that any war crimes have been committed by Israel since October the 7th? Can you definitively rule that out?
Yes, I definitely rule that out. I know and exactly how we operate. We have legal counsel to every unit, even small units. We follow the exact rules of international humanitarian law. And I want to say something. I care for our neighbors. I care. I deeply care. We care. We care for the pain of our neighbors, but we have the right to defend ourselves. And when we are defending ourselves, we are defending ourselves from missiles in people's homes, in people's shops, in people's mosques, in people's playgrounds or schools. It's unbelievably annoying when you see this in Gaza or in southern Lebanon or throughout Lebanon. It's unacceptable. This is what the world needs to do. People who believe in peace and freedom in the region and the world needs to stand up and say, this is unacceptable. Don't put any missile in your living room or in your sleeping room or anywhere else. Just get it out of there, and if you and put sovereignty of nations like the government of Lebanon to run the border with Israel and not through Hezbollah.
I would ask you, President Herzog, how you would account for the way Israeli soldiers have behaved with their posting of all the things they've been doing, because that doesn't show much caring.
So I will say, look, we mobilized about 500,000 people. People left their jobs and schools and any other things, universities, put on uniform and went to fight. They are human beings, they have families. Sometimes they can say something which is unacceptable or painful. We are a democracy, so people feel free to say something. This does not in any way reflect the code of conduct of our military and our security operations, or the instructions of our commanders, or the rule of law that is the basis for the operation of every soldier in our military.
If they have breached international laws...
By the way, people were investigated. People were investigated and are adjudicated and were arrested. And that can, unfortunately, things can happen. But this is not in any way reflective of what the Israeli Defense Forces are.
You answered my question there. So now, after 12 months of fighting, are Israeli citizens safer now than a year ago? Or has Israel essentially just created a new generation of enemies?
I wish that this new generation will see a better future. Now we have to focus on the day after. The real effort has to be on the day after. How do we change the fate and future of Gaza? The Gazan people, the people in Gaza Strip, deserve a better future as neighbors of ours, and we deserve a better future as their neighbors. It's possible, it's feasible, it requires leadership and bold steps forward. I trust, of course, that leaders in the region who've expressed their interest to be involved in the day after will be part of a major change, historical change, that will enable a real future of peace between us and our Palestinian neighbors.
Well, Mr. President, one thing that is marking this anniversary is what seems to be cracks in the alliance that Israel has in the West. And I wonder what you make of President Emmanuel Macron in France calling for an arms embargo against your country.
So I was disappointed by this comment by President Macron, who I have long-standing good relations with. I would expect leaders of the free world to understand that in a way, in many ways, we are fighting for the future of the free world. We are fighting against extreme forces that really, in my mind, do not represent what the real values of Islam are. We are fighting against an enemy that wants to reign over all the Middle East and move forward, and has aspirations, historical aspirations, also towards Europe and the United States. And we are here to block that, together with allies who understand that the future of the region is peace, coexistence, using the enormous resources of this region for the better of the world and doing good. It's feasible. Let me tell you something. I was a minister in the cabinet of Ariel Sharon in 2005, where we were, he came forward with the whole idea of getting out, that Israel will move out of the Gaza Strip. It was a very bold step. We uprooted settlements and settlers who were there 3 generations. We went to them and we told them we will rebuild a Hong Kong of the Middle East. That was the name of the whole idea, a Hong Kong of the Middle East. But unfortunately, as we moved out, Hamas came in with Iranian support, killed their cousins, brothers, and family members from Fatah, took over Gaza and turned it into an army base and a launching pad for terror against Israel and the region. This is the whole reality of the Middle East, meaning we have to be strong and tough together against this enemy and change the equation and direction of this region into a hopeful region.
Well, President Herzog, always so many questions, never enough time. I thank you so much for making the time for this interview. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.